All right, Bun B, thank
Yes,
you for
sir.
joining us.
Happy to be here.
From Houston to Chicago, all the way here. We're at your pop-up. That's usually at Soul Taco, but right
Yes.
now we're at Trill Burgers, correct?
I mean, a little half and half. Like,
Yeah.
we've kind of taken over Soul Taco, so primarily the only thing you can get are burgers. There is one taco on the menu for this pop-up, and that's a collaboration between us and
Nice.
Soul Taco. So it's kind of a smash taco done in a Korean style. So
For sure.
very, very interesting. Soul Taco is a great brand. David's a great chef. He's created a great taco. So he gave us the run of the place. He was like, sell all the burgers you want, but just put one taco on the menu so we can technically still be a taco place. And I had no problem with it. And he came up with a great taco. So it's
That's
a good
dope.
thing.
I mean, that sounds amazing. That sounds like something I need, low-key.
Yeah, for sure.
So when you're in Chicago, right? Who's one of your like favorite chefs out here? Or, like one of your favorite restaurants you like to eat at?
That's a great question. In Chicago, I would probably say I like Steak 48, so I probably would end up there for sure.
Yeah.
Good friend of mine owns a restaurant, and I've eaten at several of them, and the consistency is just breathtaking. Like the same way my steak tastes in Houston is the same way it tastes in LA, the same way it tastes in Arizona. So that's definitely a stop for us here. And here, David's spot. I'll be honest. David is not just a great chef; he's also a friend.
Yeah.
But I just met some other friends who got a new spot here, and I just ate an amazing Italian beef sandwich with like a spicy beef tallow dip. It was insane.
Yeah, that's very Chicago right there, the Italian beef.
Gotta have, and I haven't had it in my mind. I haven't had a really good one in a couple of years.
Yeah.
And he brought that one to me today, and I'm like, now.
So you was due.
I was ready.
Yeah,
I was ready.
Right, for sure. So how did you get connected with JoeFreshGoods, someone who's such a grassroots artist in this city?
That's an amazing question that you asked me. The answer is actually on the back of this shirt.
Yeah.
So this shirt is about the day that Joe and I met in 2009 in Las Vegas at the Magic Convention. I'll give you a little peek at it so you guys can see it.
True.
Yeah,
right
so
here.
It tells a story about Joe was at the Magic Convention in Las Vegas, and he was trying to sell T-shirts, and the shirts he was trying to sell had Trill on it, and he didn't have permission to use the brand name on his T-shirt. So I kind of went to his booth, and I checked him. It's funny to say now because Joe's one of my best friends, but I literally walked up and I had to press him about it. You know what I'm saying? Because I was having a lot of people infringing on intellectual property at that time,
right?
Especially with merchandise.
Facts.
And it just kind of rubbed me the wrong way.
Yeah.
And it's funny that here we are, 16 years later, really good friends, and actually collaborating on this project. But the way Joe frames it is, he was working with other people's intellectual properties. So I kind of forced him to come up with his own shit.
Yeah.
So, and he says, and thus, once I checked him and he stopped making those kind of T-shirts, the rest is actually history. He started concentrating on his own brand. He built JoeFreshGoods, and here we are, man. One of the strongest brands in the country as lifestyle is concerned.
Yeah. That's incredible. So I wasn't hip to Trill being yours.
Yes.
Like, that's incredible because I feel like it's such a cultural dialect.
Well,
at this point.
it's common vernacular now, but we were the first people in rap music to ever use the term.
Right.
And we've always been associated with the term. But as we became more popular, the term spread out of its original Texas roots to around the country. And now it's just common as any other term that people use in hip hop. It's literally everyday vernacular.
Exactly.
And it's going outside of hip hop because you see Trill and a whole bunch of other things too. Yeah. And I'm glad for that. Even if we didn't make the most money out of it, we did have the most influence, and we still get all the credit for it.
Impact.
So,
Impact is huge.
So I can take it and work with it.
Yeah,
for sure.
It's crazy really thinking about the things that rap music has been able to do just like in this country, and evolving language is really one of those things.
Absolutely. And luckily, everyone that listens to hip hop music, they tend to take the terms of the people they listen to and the music that they like. So we just, came with the right music at the right time with some brand new, fresh terminology for people. Everybody kind of liked it. It was very easy to insert into things. And because it's, this is hip hop culture, Trill rhymes with a lot of different words. So it was very easy to implement it into the game.
It's just incredible to sit down with somebody like you with so much experience in this game and as a businessman
thank you.
As well with all your wisdom. What's something that you would really like young artists to know today that are coming up?
I think artists nowadays need to understand that musicians have never had the amount of power and control over their careers as they have right now. A lot of people come into the game and they believe this is just how the music industry has been, but it's not that. We had to go through record companies and we had to actually go to radio stations. And if a record company didn't sign you and a radio station didn't play you, people really wouldn't know how to know you. They wouldn't know how to find you or hear you. But social media has caught up, technology has caught up. So now instead of having to go through someone like a record company or a radio station, you don't really need a conduit. You can put music out there on your own directly to the consumer through YouTube, through Apple Music, through Spotify, through all of these streaming platforms. You can bypass all the people that would normally have to dictate and decide whether or not you are able to be heard and seen by people. And now we let the people decide.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I think that's a beautiful thing. Now, because there are a couple of different shortcuts that people take, you don't necessarily need the level of discipline that we had to have. But the reality is that if the fans aren't asking for that kind of music, then I don't know if you should be concerned with making that kind of you know, and I don't really judge nowadays the young artists because I know that they don't make music with a 52-year-old grandfather in mind when they're in the studio. You know what I'm saying? But if the kids love it, then, you know, let these guys be. Because I remember when I first started, I was not a popular taste. You know what I'm saying? And I know my mom still doesn't really listen to my music. She's only been to like 3 concerts of mine in 32 years.
Does she just not like the genre, or?
I think for the early years, it was the environment.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
For sure.
This was a very aggressive environment to operate in, and a lot of the places that we played in our early years were not really the safest of environments for people to be in. But as I got older and started doing like bigger shows and like performing with the symphony and stuff like that, these kind of environments are more conducive to me having my mom in.
Right.
So it's been fun to have her around.
That makes sense. Well, they just dropped off, some of the product here.
Yes, sir.
Looks beautiful. I mean, of course, having your vision, having Joe's vision, like an incredible presentation.
Thank you.
Obviously.
Joe, of course, designed the boxes. I believe we've done some many good collaborations with brands like Levi's and Godzilla, for that matter. Like, we've done some really incredible things, but Joe's presentation on this box really takes the cake, man. He really put his foot into it. And this is Joe's Burger. This is the burger that Joe designed. So it's a lot of elements come in our typical Trill Burger. The 2 American beef patties, the 2 slices of American cheese, caramelized onions. That always exists in a Trill Burger. But this one, he decided to add jalapenos. And there's a slightly sweet, slightly spicy mild sauce. Mayo that's on this burger as well. So we put this burger together, got some of Joe's greatest flavors, and put that Chicago mild sauce on it. To wrap it up with a nice sweet bow.
But speaking of Trill, right, we're coming up on the 20th anniversary of your debut album, right? And I kind of wanted to know, like, what do you see as the biggest difference between yourself maybe at the point of the debut album release to now? And I want to know how you're going to celebrate that.
Well, honestly, I think the one major factor now is the confidence. When I did this album, it was a very, very difficult time for me. Pimp C was in prison, so the group wasn't operating. I had to make a decision to become a solo artist in order to keep the name alive. But in the group, Pimp did pretty much all the production. He did half the rapping, came up with the hooks and all of that. For my first solo album, Trill, I had to do everything. I had to pick the beats. I had to figure out what the songs were going to talk about. I had to decide who would be a good person to partner and collaborate on some of those songs. And I've really never had that level of responsibility in creating an album at that time. So I relied on a lot of good friends and my manager and my wife. You know, we sat down, we had a clear idea of what we didn't want to do. So then we had to figure out, okay, well, what's going to be acceptable? How do we carve out our own identity as a solo artist without disrupting what UGK has always meant to people? And we weren't really sure if it was going to work, you know. But it actually paid off. The album went gold when we released it.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And here we are 20 years later. We put up a show to celebrate it. This first one's already sold out. Now we're talking about we might need to do a second show. So
put it on then.
Absolutely. So I think it's good to be appreciated. It's good that we picked a small venue to do something a little bit more intimate because you know, a lot of my last shows in the city of Houston have been with the Livestock Show and Rodeo, and that's in the football stadium, and it's usually like 74,000 people. So it's the furthest thing away from intimate you could do as a performer. But with this Trill concert, I wanted it to be intimate. I didn't want it to have a big production to it. I wanted it to be very simple, And I could just talk to people, explain my frame of thought at the time and what we were thinking about, what we had to take into consideration, make some laughs, probably make a tear or two drop, but just take people through that walk and show them like this was an emotional project for me to make, and I'm really glad they appreciated it.
What's one of your favorite songs off that album?
I would have to say Get Thrilled. I'd have to say Get Thrilled. Get Thrilled.
I mean, that's a classic. That is.
It was the production by Mr. Lee was amazing, and to get Zero on there, to give him an opportunity to have some national exposure was cool. Having my brother Jay on that song and just really stretching this thing around the country. You had people from all over be a part of that song, and it's as Houston and Southern as you could probably get. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The Get Thrilled that was a big record for me. There's a lot of great songs. The Story is on there. Hold You Down. I made that for my wife. That's a really big song on there. But I think every time Get Thrilled comes on and those opening chords come on, it sets it off in the moment. Because it starts so distinctly, and regardless of what the last song was, you have to kind of stop it and give it its own introduction. You can't really, as a DJ, you can't really blend it in how you would normally blend in a lot of records. So I love that song, every time it's played, it kind of stands out as its own like a sore thumb.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's just a classic hip-hop record right there. Like, it stands, obviously, the test of time, but it's the sound is just, like you said, so specific and so noteworthy. I heard it over the summer at like a barbecue. I turned around, I'm like, who played this?
I know, right?
It's one of those that just gets you every time. Like, every time you want to hear it all the way through. So that's right. A gem right there, and I'm thankful that you made that.
And luckily the timing of everything worked out, because by the time the album released and the single released and we got time to shoot the video, Pimp had been on for like 4 or 5 days. We got and he's on Get Thrilled, so we were able to bring him in and put him right back into the flow like he never left.
Yeah. If you don't mind me asking, that kind of tumultuous time where you had to put together this album, what did that really teach you about the importance of teamwork, and also kind of like on the other side of that, the self-confidence that you have to have within yourself to get the job done?
Well, I mean, when people look at these albums and they see my big face, especially on the Trill album cover, it's just my big face taking over the whole album. And it can be the impression that this is my album. But in reality, I share this album with management. I share this album with producers. I share this album with writers. I share this album with engineers. I share this album with the marketing team, the branding department, the promotions department, college radio. It takes a lot of soldiers to win this war with these music. And for me, once we saw that, we could come up with an idea, execute an idea, and be rewarded by the idea, be appreciated by the idea, that gave us the confidence to like, oh, we got a solo career now. Right? We not only have a solo album, which we're really proud of, but we now actually have a solo career. And so the solo album initially was done just to get us across that bridge to get back to UGK, but unfortunately with Pimp C's passing, I had to fully become a solo artist. But we knew we could do it in his passing because we had done it in his absence while he was in prison.
Right.
So, in spite of everything and the hard times and the grief that we were dealing with, we knew ultimately that we had what it took to continue to make good music alone. So, and that's what we're doing. 20 years later, we're still here.
Exactly. Can you tell me a little bit about your time at Rice University teaching religion and hip hop? What was that like for you? Well,
I'd initially done it as an interview. I was invited to come and speak at the class, and the teacher, Dr. Anthony Penn, and we got along really well. He had a lot of books in his office that I had read as well, so we got to talk about that. And we did the interview in the class, and it went over really well. And a couple of months later, he reached out to me and asked me if I would want to co-teach the course with him, which was very strange for me because I don't have a college degree. I didn't go to college. I was like, so I don't know how that works, but if you can convince the university to let me teach it, I'll do it. And then when I actually accepted it, then I dealt with some anxiety because I realized, like, this isn't like a concert. This isn't like a speaking engagement. You are educating the future minds in America. And Rice University is a private university. It's the top university in Houston, and probably around 16 or 17 top university in the nation, back and forth. So these are some of the smartest kids in the world. And I don't want to send them the wrong way. I don't want to give them any misdirection. And I want to make sure that I educate them in a way that they can I present it in a way that they can absorb it.
Yeah.
Right? Because sometimes you can just be talking to a wall if you're communicating in a way that isn't conducive to the conversation. By conversation, I mean the back and forth with yourself and the students. But after about 2 or 3 classes, we found that we had hit it just right, and got a full vote of confidence from Dr. Penn on the course. So I literally led every lecture every day I taught. And Dr. Penn would come in, give some supplemental info. We'd do Q&A, we'd give some required reading. I had office hours. Like, I was fully immersed in the educational experience on college university. And it was amazing, man. I had no idea how smart some of these kids were coming into the class. And not only did we teach some things, we learned some things.
Right.
We learned some things too. So even though I was taking the lead in the conversation to give them things that I thought that would help them in the course, during the conversations and the back and forth, I took away things and viewpoints that I hadn't considered.
Yeah.
So I had a really good time teaching, and I think we all learned something in the process.
Yeah. It's so interesting. Like, everyone that teaches always talks about the helper theory concept, where, like, you're teaching, but you're also learning so much from the people that you're teaching and the experience of doing it.
Without question. I had teaching assistants.
Yeah.
I didn't really utilize them as much the first semester that we taught, but one of the questions we kept getting from female students was about the female representation in both religion and hip hop.
Yeah.
In the way that women primarily lead participants in the church, but they're not in leadership positions often. Same thing with hip hop. Women lead the rush in terms of attending concerts and buying merch and buying albums and all of these things.
And
they're some of the best.
hot.
Yeah, and they're some of the best artists in the game, but they're not considered leaders in the culture. So we got addressed that by our female students. And so the next semester, we brought in female assistants to do a lecture speaking to women's voices in religion as well as hip hop. So that was just one of the lessons that the students taught me that helped me make my course better to be taught. You know,
100%. And it's so cool that you've done that. I feel like not many people have those kind of, I guess, like, side quests. You got
to be open to learn.
Resume.
Even in the position of teaching, you have to be open to learn.
Yeah.
Education and thought exchange, it's reciprocal. So if you expect to teach people, don't be surprised if you become informed by how they respond to it.
Yeah, and I think, too, it's in, like, a lot of your rhymes. I mean, you say on, I think it is Big Pimpin', like, pick up a book and read, you illiterate son of a bitch, you know? So it's like, it's been there the whole time.
Well, and then for me, like, I consider myself a very educated MC, so we're going to talk about the same things. We're probably even going to take the same angles, but I'm going to have a more descriptive idea of how the conversation is going to go based on the access I've had to the levels of vocabulary, right? Yeah. So when we talk, we get the fuck yous, we get the, shut the fuck up, and you a bitch and all of that. We're all going to utilize that, but I can still insert terminology that will differentiate between the two.
Yeah, 100%.
And give people a different reaction to the words, because I'm putting different words in that they wouldn't normally hear, but they do understand. Exactly. So as long as I put it in proper context, it's going to be hard.
Yeah.
Because I call you a bitch a multitude of ways.
Yeah, right? Like 50 different ways.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. That's just creativity, too, and I think that's something that we kind of get a lot from, the regional sound of hip-hop and how people make so much different kinds of music. I know I had a friend in high school who moved down to Dallas and put me on to a whole bunch of stuff that they was doing out there. And it was just words that I literally never heard before. And I'm like, that's crazy. Like, slab. Like,
yeah, exactly. But that's the beauty of hip-hop expanding throughout. Yeah. And initially, hip-hop started created in New York, so a lot of the terminology was New York terminology. We were then introduced to a lot of West Coast terminology, and then as the South started becoming more prominent, we were introduced into that terminology that let guys like Chicago express themselves, guys in Detroit express themselves, guys like Nelly, in St. Louis in the Midwest express themselves, and now we see interpretations of hip hop coming from around the world. So people have taken our music into their culture in Japan, in Tokyo, in Seoul, Korea. Shout out to Seoul Taco.
Seoul Taco.
But in London, England, Australia, all over the world, hip hop exists, and people have turned it on its head because they've taken the notion and the idea of what hip-hop represents, but they've regionalized it to make it more personable to the people in their immediate community that they're talking to.
Well, before we get up out of here, we always ask people who's a real one in their lives. But since we got you here, I want to know who's a trill one in your life.
Oh man, I would have to say Joe. JoeFreshGoods.
Yeah,
and the reason I say that, if you look at the way this relationship started, with like me being very aggressive towards him and kind of put him in check, he didn't take that in a bad way. He realized, you know what, I needed to hear this. I needed to stop doing products based off of what other people are doing and give my ideas and my vision a shot. And he's thrilled for that because he took it the wrong way. And it's Chicago. It's in Chicago, so these things can get very, very edgy. Already. You know what I'm saying? So I'm glad that he looked at it as constructive criticism, even though I didn't probably present it in that way in the moment, but that was my intention. I'm glad he took it in that way and created an empire, man. Chicago's a lot better off for it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, we are.
So you're welcome.
Thank you. Thank him. Well, thank you so much for sitting with us. Thank you so much for this pop-up and bringing your talents out to Chicago.
Hey, man, it's never a problem when pop-up with real ones, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We got the King of the Trill, one half of the Underground Kings, Bun B in here. Thank y'all for watching. Appreciate y'all.
We're here all weekend, baby. Tap in.